Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Council Corner. Our story begins today with a look at Howard Brown and his capacity with the city of Opelika from January 2010 to January 2014. During that time, in 2013, the FBI had begun a corruption investigation in the city. It involved undercover operatives, wires, films, and a whole lot of drama. Howard Brown was right there while history was being made. A nearly dozen people that were around him ended up being convicted. Tragically, one of them ended up dead the day he was to turn himself in. His goddaughter said she believed he was murdered. The official result was suicide, death by driving his truck into a large ficus tree across a field. It's safe to say that the corruption had been going on for several years in Opelika at the highest levels, as testified to at trial and on film. The corruption was nearing a zenith during the same period that Howard was there. On June the 26th of 2013, Mr. Baker, who was serving as city manager, promotes Howard to interim acting assistant manager to cover for an unknown absence by then assistant city manager, Mr. Shiverton. From information provided from Opelika sources, it was until January of 2014 that Brown served in that role. We've yet to determine why Shiverton took leave. It could well have been medical reasons or other accrued leave, family matters, or something else. Fact is, we don't know at this juncture. We do know that he did a similar disappearing act after the news broke about the scandal. Nonetheless, Howard became 2IC, or second in charge. From information we've collected from Opelika sources, the whole time Howard is there, Shiverton is still the assistant manager, just absent, and Howard now has the magic wand and title of acting assistant manager with all the defined authorities of office. Now, Shiverton is one of the nearly dozen ultimately convicted. By his own admission, he was up to his neck in illegal graft at the time. Howard Brown was not a lower-level person in the middle of what is still a major corruption scandal that the people of Opelika are digging out from. According to a 2016 Miami Herald article, Baker was one of the suspected ringleaders. Now, remember, Baker was the then sitting manager. As impossible as it seemed at the time, Opelika's long and scandalous history of fraud and corruption took a turn for the worst after the mayor and commission hired the same former city manager who wreaked financial havoc in North Miami Beach until he was finally fired in 2010. It should be noted that even before Kelvin Baker was promoted as North Miami Beach city manager in 2008, he also served as the assistant city manager in 2004 and was previously the director of public services, including its water utility operations for 10 years from 1994 until 2004. Even though Opelika's financial disaster began long before Kelvin Baker was hired, its problems only intensified during the 3 years he was at the helm from 2012 to 2015, the same year that Shriver was hired. An examination of the timeline of events, as pointed out in the August 2016 front page Miami Herald article, Opelika turned public utility into extortion. Clearly implicates Kelvin Baker's direct participation in the rampant corruption in the city's water department, which is only one of the areas that were under federal investigation at the time. Ask yourself, if you're Baker and you're extorting money as a city manager, and your assistant manager is involved with you, Shiverton, by his own admission, how do you decide who to promote when Shiverton, the assistant manager, takes a 6-month absence? Do you promote them because he's in on things? Do you do it because he knows but doesn't participate but still keeps quiet? Or is it because he's a senseless, unsuspecting fool that cannot see the fire for the smoke? We're quite sure given the opportunity someone will come up with others, like maybe he was the best man for the job. Right. Remember now, this is the same city that was $4+ million in debt, 2 or more of which was to Miami for water service. No wonder they were collecting the cash and putting it in their pockets. It seems some of the staff members that worked under Brown on the org chart, some at director levels, were assisting in the whole scheme of fraud all along as well. Now remember, Brown was upper totem pole, 2IC, and corruption was running the ranks. It was being reported then that the blatant corruption inside Opelika's water department was so rampant, it's impossible to believe it could not have been kept hidden from anyone at City Hall, much less former city manager Kelvin Baker or his acting assistant Howard Brown. Let's take the long shot position, though, and say that Howard has the benefit of the doubt that he knew nothing of the malfeasance or corruptions, even with his closeness to the matter. Then we'd have to say it all happened right under Howard's watchful eye as an assistant manager, and he was blind to it. Of course, Howard, Janet, and the rest of the village people will say that Howard never knew a thing. Maybe so. If that's true, then honestly answer to yourself how, with the authority of oversight that was given to him as an assistant city manager, do you allow him to avoid complicities and failures of trust that occurred? They're literally federal cases. If we say that in the least it's his poor management practices and standards of oversights and ethics that contributed to this occurring, it still happened on his watch. Is that the best we can do, Indiantown? Is this what we settle for? We find some of the claims made by Howard hardly believable. Tam would like to know how the council can continue to have faith in a person that was around one of the largest corruption cases in Florida and was not even able to identify it within his own house. Fine. He knew nothing, and his management standards had nothing to do with it. There, we can agree to disagree, I suppose, though. I'm sure we can agree, though, that from 2013 until 2014, his resume claims his title and responsibility was, and we're quoting, acting assistant city manager. During this tenure, I, Howard Brown, assisted the city manager in a number of special assignments. My primary responsibility was the development and implementation of financial recovery plan. The assignment led to substantial cost savings, revenue generation of net new revenue, and expenditure reductions to be approved by the mayor and council, end quote. This next clip from CBS 4 Miami is from November of 2015, just a few short months after Brown's implemented and failed financial recovery plan to make the $4 million money problem go away. Nice job, Howard. Stand by. Let's take a look at the CBS News report. Stand by.
The city of Opelika is known for its Baghdad-named streets, a good bit of violent crime, and history of scandal. Now, as CBS 4's Gary Nelson reports, Opelika is looking at a financial crisis that could lead to a state takeover.
And the current financial situation.
By speakerphone, Opelika Brass briefed the governor's staff on the town's financial situation. And as the banner headline says, the news is not good.
We're still gathering information as best as possible.
New city manager Steve Shiver, a former county manager, discovered a town that's basically busted. Its phones recently turned off briefly because the bill wasn't paid. For 3 months, workers didn't get their benefits. A contractor renovating the old city hall walked off over unpaid bills. The city has $4 million in checks written but not in the mail because they would bounce. The mayor blames prior managers who kept commissioners in the dark.
We didn't feel that we were fully informed as to what was going on.
The law requires Opelika inform the governor of its woes. He was in Broward Thursday.
Our inspector general is reviewing it, and we'll see, as we see how we can be helpful.
That could be code for a state takeover of Opelika.
We will get through this.
An embarrassment the city desperately wants to avoid. Shiver thinks he can.
A lot of elbow grease and a lot of smart folks sitting around the room figuring it out. I'm confident in our staff that we'll be able to do that.
Confidence not shared by many Opelika residents accustomed to ineptitude.
Where's the money going? The citizens aren't getting it. They can't do nothing to help us.
Opelika has a storied history of financial woes and scandal. Scarcely a month on the job, Shiver was accused by a contractor of trying to solicit a bribe for the mayor.
There's no comment to say on that.
Neither the mayor nor Shiver would discuss the alleged graft attempt as the city wrestles with potential bankruptcy. The new manager is confident he can solve Opelika's financial crisis and stave off a state takeover. He's going to do it by cutting costs. That means eliminating jobs and services in Opelika. Gary Nelson, CBS 4 News.
Tam is sure the people in the village are hopeful that the same kind of planning is not going to go on here in the village. Did you hear the good mayor say in the interview that she felt they were uninformed by their managers? Howard Brown, acting assistant manager, Opelika, 2013-2014. You would think that with the outflow of money from the water department alone, he would have seen discrepancy and error while putting his financial plan together. Either that or he just overlooked something or estimated incorrectly, I guess. Shriver took over as a new manager in 2015, soon after Howard's abrupt and unexplained departure. And mind you, Shriver ended up turning state evidence on Shiverton and others. What else has Howard embellished, fabricated, or plain old lied about? Has this leopard changed his spots? Well, we have a question for Miss Janet, Anthony, and Jackie, who are all very vocal in their support for Howard. Why do you support him? We've already shown you that one of his colleagues from CPSM was tied to an early 2000 scandal concerning minority oppression in Orange County. We're not making these things up. They happened. We've shown you the articles. Yet certain council members continue to chew the meat they're thrown by Howard Brown in this person. In any other situation, you'd be labeling him a racist and an oppressor of black and brown. So why not this time? While Howard was never indicted in Opelika, he was high enough up the scale to have enough opportunity to hear, see, and smell the fire. Even the financial situation alone should be enough to ask about his integrity and knowledge, even his judgment, actions, and outcomes. You cannot serve that high up and not know there are serious financial issues, then pretend like you can pull a clean sheet over them without speaking out. So all the while, the bills to Miami are not being paid for water service by the city, contractors are not getting paid, and on and on and on. Remember, by his own claim, Brown is in top leadership levels while all of this is occurring. He was writing the plan. He was next to the flame of corruption from 2010 until 2014 and never screamed fire. To try and say that people do not talk is a joke. What was happening in City Hall was well known and documented by CBS4 in Miami. Knowing and remaining silent would make him as complicit as if he were directly malfeasant in the act. If he knew and said nothing, he was complicit through misfeasance. If he had no clue at all, then he's incompetent and demonstrating that he's a poor manager and in the least unfit for our village. This wisdom of continuing to employ this person as village manager is a mistake, just from the perspective of ethical standards as well as professional and moral decisions. Those he brought with him from the same system should be reviewed by a new village manager. As far as Opelika, well, Howard has gone to Oklahoma before the new manager Shriver comes on board in 2015. And the videos below from CBS4 Miami will help bring you up to speed on, fill you in on the rest of the story of what happened down there. Our hope is that in the least, any critical thinking person with half a wit about them should be able to look at the story of Opelika and ask, what kind of experts have we hired from Opelika to spend our money? This is just one stop on the Howard Brown tour. Oh, we have more to follow. So, until next time, stand by.